Welcome to the Culinary Treasure Podcast. I'm Stephen Shomler, your host. So delighted back here at the Oregon coast, here at Twist Wine Company. So excited to tell you their story. Chenin Carlton, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
I met you a couple years ago. You had just an incredible, amazing story. You are a winemaker. Your husband's an incredible winemaker. Yes. I last night was looking through the photos from the dinner we had where you were there, and I was like, oh, I remember that wine. So now I get to be here, right here in Pacific City, and we get to tell your story. So thank you so much for joining us on the Culinary Treasure Podcast.
Thanks for stopping by.
Okay, so all my podcasts begin the same way. Where were you born?
I was born in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, California. Okay, I was born in Hollywood, California. Wonder what other similarities we'll find. And where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at Linfield in Temecula, a small private school. Very small.
And what was the mascot?
I think it was a lion.
Oh, I know it was the Lions. And you lived in Temecula at the time, right?
Yes.
And the reason that we're both laughing is when we did our little discussion pre-interview, I grew up outside of Lake Elsinore, and my mom, for whatever crazy reason, took us to the dentist in Temecula.
Dr. Beck.
And we went to the same dentist. And then when I was in high school, I went to a small private school in Elsinore, and we were the Lions, and we played against the Linfield Lions. So my little tiny school played against your medium tiny school. I just think that is kind of blowing my mind.
Small world.
And you, like me, remember when the Sizzler opened in Temecula. That was the biggest thing ever to happen.
Salad bar was amazing.
The salad bar was amazing, yeah. And then the Stater Brothers came to town. Woohoo! Okay.
Big time.
Oh, that is very, very funny. Okay, so your journey to Oregon, you and your husband in 2001 were both working and living professionally. You were living in Napa and you're working professionally in the wine industry, and he got transferred up to the McMinnville area. So you guys moved up here. You got a home in Amity. Not everyone except people in Oregon know where Amity is, but you're working in the McMinnville area and you moved to Oregon. And coming from first Southern California, I know exactly where you lived in Southern California, and then for years you lived in Napa. What was it like for Oregon for you when you first moved here? Not to the coast yet, but just to the Oregon area.
It was I felt like coming from Southern California to Northern California to Oregon, I had made this gradual transition, getting used to changes in the climate and scenery and whatnot from growing up in Southern California. But the first thing we did was went to G.I. Joe's back when they still existed and got I live in the Pacific Northwest Columbia rain jacket and some sturdy rain boots, and I was good to go.
I tell people now, even if you're visiting Oregon, land at PDX, go to the Columbia Outlet store there in Selwood, get yourself some really good gear. Columbia probably doesn't like me sending people to their outlet store. Get some really good gear, and then I tell people head up the Oregon coast. So you guys are living in the McMinnville area in Amity, and you decide to venture out to the Oregon coast. Tell me about that day, that first time you went to the Oregon coast.
We started looking at ways to explore Oregon, and we discovered there was a brewery on the beach about an hour straight shot through the Coast Range from where we were living at the time. We had a dog. It seemed like the perfect Oregonian thing to do. Take your dog, run him on the beach, and then go have a beer and a burger, and we fell in love with the area. As we kept exploring Oregon, we'd go somewhere else like Multnomah Falls and then come back to the coast, this section of the coast. We'd go to Crater Lake and then come back to this section of the Oregon coast and just fell in love with it. Even when we went to other sections of the Oregon coast, we came back to the Pacific City area, and so eventually bought a house.
Yeah, for those that don't know, you were talking about Pelican Brewing, the beach.
Sorry.
Yeah, the beach that you took your dog to is Cape Kiwanda. And Pelican, they're a chapter in my second book. I absolutely love them. They're literally right on the beach. People don't understand. I mean, you sit there and have one of their amazing beers and look out at the water. And I too, one of my all-time favorite state parks in Oregon is Cape Lookout. I just love that. And then I like, Oswald West State Park, that little walk down to the water. So some of my favorite stuff. Okay, so I love that story. You had a beer right there at Pelican, fell in love. So, and then
takes a lot of beer to make great wine.
It does, yes, it does.
We revamped our business plan there as well.
And given given how I've had your wine and how amazing it is, you guys must drink a tremendous amount of beer because you make amazing wine. So
it takes a lot of beer to make great wine.
Okay. And then in 2006, you guys left Amity and you moved full time. You had a big, huge, amazing changes in your life. You moved out to Pacific City, moved out here.
Yes.
And then you both ditched your day jobs and you started what became Twist Wine Company. First, you've lived here in Pacific since 2006. What's it like living in this town here on the Oregon coast?
It's a small town. It's very crowded in the summertime. It's very slow this time of year when we're recording in January. It's definitely the off season, but it feels like we have the best of both worlds. We get to go to the city. We make our wine in McMinnville. We have things we need to do in Portland from time to time, but we always get to retreat back to the coast, which is always nice. We have this thing when we're coming through, especially if we're coming from the winery, where when we call it break on through to the other side, like the song. When we break on through to the other side and we can, see if it's a rock day or a not rock day, depending on how overcast it is. And there's just this like decompression that happens when we come through the Coast Range and see the rock, start to see the ocean. It's just a very grounding, chill, mellow, nice thing.
Yeah, I just did a podcast for the gentleman who works Dry Hills Distillery in Bozeman, Montana, and he grew up in Bozeman, and he went away to the big city to New York and worked in New York City, and he felt like when he now is back in Bozeman full time, but every time he came home to Bozeman, it was like a slower pace, and he could decompress and kind of relax and let the big city pressures of New York City go away. I get the same thing. I absolutely love the Oregon coast, and my favorite time for people to visit the Oregon coast. I mean, I like my experience, July, 4th of July through, Labor Day is kind of the busiest time.
Yep.
I love October. October is so beautiful.
October is gorgeous.
I've had so many fires right there as the sun sets at Cape Lookout State Park, in October, and it's warm and beautiful and incredible. But my favorite time to come is December or January and February. And some places are closed in January, but February and December, they're often open, and they're so happy to see you. And
we get some nice weather in February.
You do.
We get some sunny days. It might not be warm, but it's not gray and overcast.
Well, and also it's not that cold. People don't realize. I mean, it's not like it gets to, I lived in Minnesota for 3 years.
Right.
Now that's cold. I mean, we're on the coast. It doesn't get that cold.
45.
Yeah, 45. That's fine. Put on a jacket.
Put on your puffy jacket.
Yeah, do some walking around. Then you have some wine and warm up. I think it's just phenomenal. Perfect. Okay, so I love that you made the leap to become self-employed, to start your own. You started your own winery and your own company, and all that's grown into Twist Wine Company. We're sitting here in the Twist Wine Company World Headquarters. We'll talk about that in a second. But you started making wine first. 2006, you were in Dundee.
Yes.
And then 2008, you moved to McMinnville, and that's where you make your wine
2011,
now.
we moved to McMinnville.
And you make your wine there now. And then every fall, that's where you make all your wine. And there's nowhere to visit. People aren't welcome to come. That's just where you make the magic happen.
We've got the right equipment, but it's not set up for visitors.
I understand. Good friends of mine just down the road, Oregon Coast Wasabi. They're out here on the Oregon Coast. I've done 3 culinary podcasts with Jennifer, and same thing. Her farm. She's a farmer, and she's just not set up to receive visitors. People really want to see it, but maybe someday she'll have a visiting farm or something, but it's just not there yet. So same thing with you guys, but they can come here to Pacific City.
We're open here.
Drink the wine and buy the wine, and we'll talk about the wines that you make. But I want to go back to that first. You're making your first wine in 2006. You've ditched your day jobs. You're going to go for it. You're going to build the life that you imagine. What did it feel like when you're making that first wine?
It was exciting. The first grapes to come in were the Chenin Blanc grapes, which are obviously near and dear to my heart. But it was pretty crazy. We were taking lots of pictures, and we just couldn't believe it was actually happening. And at the winery, because our grapes were the very first grapes to come in for the season for everyone who was making wine at this co-op, we had all hands on deck. Every single intern, every winemaker that worked at this facility, all the, any of the big wigs out of the office, like everyone was there to watch the first grapes of the season come through, and they were our Chenin Blanc grapes.
That's just a beautiful story, and I just think it almost brings me to tears. I love how the universe works, that you've ditched your day jobs, you start a wine, and the first grapes that come in are Chenin Blanc. So for those that haven't figured out yet, tell us why that grape is so near and dear to your heart and why I'm almost in tears.
My mother was pregnant with me when she and my dad in the 60s planted Chenin Blanc and Petit Syrah in Temecula. Mom was pregnant with me at the time. They both named me Chenin after the grapes. And that was the first commercial vineyard in the Temecula, what is now the Temecula wine growing region. And they are credited with inadvertently founding Temecula as a wine growing region now.
And there's amazing wines down there.
There are.
How beautiful that the grape you're named for, that your parents planted, is the first grape that comes in for you when you guys launch your endeavor. I'm sorry, those kind of things just, they're so touching to me. I love how the universe works. I just think it is phenomenal that way. Okay, I got to gather my thoughts, got to get these tears out of my eyes, and I just think it's fantastic. Okay, so Twist Wine Company. So we're here. So you start making making wine in 2006. And then in 2008, you open Twist Wine Company, your own tasting room.
Yes.
In 2008, you opened about a block from here. 2019, a year ago, 2019, you moved a block away, and some people still can't figure it out, but you're just a block away. It says Twist right on the thing. I know I'm here.
It's a big sign.
But going back to 2008, there's a lot of good reasons for a winery to open a tasting room. Why did you guys open a tasting room in 2008?
We had been distributing our wines for a couple of years. We were in about 11 or 12 different states. And it was a lot for two people to be trying to manage. We had some distributors that were awesome to work with. Some, there'd be some challenges and we'd butt heads. And we decided in 2008, after seeing an empty shop front in Pacific City, that maybe a tasting room was the route to go, that it would afford us maybe a little better quality of life and wouldn't have to travel so much. We could make the same amount of wine, sell at retail, and make the same amount of money as we were trying to make that amount of wine wholesale it across the country to all these different states and have all these different accounts that we were trying to keep track of. The idea of just opening a tasting room and being able to hand sell our product directly to the customer that we could talk to, and really, when we talk directly to the customer, be it a customer off the street or a wine account, it always felt like when we could talk to them directly, they got it, they could grasp what we were after. But when we have this middleman, they're trying to represent hundreds of different brands, and it's just a lot. And we decided to change up the route that we were doing things.
Okay, so tell me, here's what I heard. Tell me if I heard right. So I'm blessed now. I get to do two things I love to do professionally. I'm a culinary storyteller, and then I own Spark to Bonfire, where I provide people resources to go live the life they imagine. That's what I do, is I love the life I've built. And it sounds like you guys, part of the reason to open the tasting room was to head back toward the direction of why you ditched your day jobs, to have a more fulfilling, a better life for you guys. Is that part of the reason?
Better life, better lifestyle.
I love it. That's just, to me, life is too short and too precious to not live a life you love.
Yes, it is.
I think that's fantastic. Okay, so the specifics, I want people to come here. I want them to taste the wine. I want them to buy 5 or 6 bottles and take them home because they're all amazing.
Or a case.
Yeah, I'm okay with a case too. So generally from after the Super Bowl till about New Year's, roughly, you're open 5-6 days a week here in this space in Pacific City.
We're open regularly.
People need to check Facebook and the website. I hesitate to be too specific because you're self-employed and things change over time, and what's true in 2020 may not be true in 2022, and people listen to my podcast 2, 3, 4 years later. But generally, you're open, 11 to 7 during the week, 11 to 9 Saturday and Friday and Saturday. Open on Sunday, but closed on Tuesdays.
Yes.
That's currently, but that could change in 2 years. So we're not,
It very well could.
If that happens, don't you give Shannon and Sean any grief about that. We're just kind of giving rough strokes. But then sometimes you're closed in parts of January.
Yeah, we go into a winter hibernation in January, and so typically take about 2 weeks off where we're completely shut down, and then we'll open for like weekends for the last half of the month or so.
And so when people come here, they can get flights. flights of wine. They can drink glasses of wine. They can buy bottles and take them home. And then you have a couple, someone told me you had snacks, but I mean, when I look at these, you have a cheese board, a meat board. These are not snacks. These are like incredible meals.
Small plates.
I just think it's amazing. So one of the things I noticed on the cheese board, Nestucca Bay Creamery.
Yes.
I was just talking to them about doing a podcast with them. I'm very excited when I do a podcast with them. And I see you've got the incredible stuff on your meat board. One of the things on the current meat board, and that may change, but Olympia Provisions.
We love Olympia Provisions. We've got both Nestucca Bay Creamery and Olympia Provisions products in our cooler as well.
And speaking of your cooler, you've got three little figs jam in there.
Yes.
Which I love. And I see some Rogue cheese. I just did a podcast with a Rogue Creamery down in Central Point. I absolutely love them. So that's the cool thing is people are like staying out at the coast. They need check into your hotels, drive here, pick up your case of wine, get some cheese, some meat,
crackers.
Right from your little refrigerated area, and take those back to your room.
Yep. We got you covered.
And you've got some almonds, you've got some olives, you've got some baguette slices. So you can have a really nice, hour or two having a nice meal and enjoy some great wine. And then you do have a couple beers around if people aren't as, if the husband or the wife isn't as fond of wine. I think once they have yours, they need to try the Chenin Blanc and they'll be converted. But if someone does want a beer, they can get that. So people can come here, they can just have an amazing, hour or so of time, have a nice little plate, get some snacks to take back to wherever they're at, their home or to their room, take a case or two of wine with them. I think it's just amazing. I want people to get the picture here that this is where, and then you have different labels for your wines. And at the end of the podcast, we'll talk about, you have roughly 7 wines, depending on the year. They all have really cool names that have meaning, but the overall umbrella is Twist Wine Company. And the only place on the planet you can get it is to come right here to Twist Wine Company world headquarters in Pacific City.
Right here.
Okay, before we start talking about your wines, we kind of alluded to it, but I want to hear a little bit more. Tell me about where did your wine journey begin?
I wasn't given a choice. My mom was pregnant with me when she and my dad planted Chenin Blanc grapes, so they named me Chenin after the vines that they planted. When we were home winemakers as a child, and when I was 10 years old, my family made the decision to start a commercial winery. So my brother and I were put to work in the vineyard and the winery at a very young age. We were tasked with doing the pump overs, and sometimes those pump overs were in the middle of the night. So we'd get up, even on a school night, and go down to the winery and do the pump overs. I was tasked with suckering the vines in the vineyard, which if you ever tried to grow tree shrubbery, you know that as the trunk is forming, you get the little suckers that grow off the side that sap energy from the rest of the plant, so you need to break them off. And my saying was, they call it suckering for a reason. You're a sucker for doing it or for getting suckered into doing it.
And this is like early grade school, second,
Yes.
third, fourth grade.
Yes, it was.
Helping make your parents' dream come true.
Yep.
That's so funny because I was just, not too far away. My dad built a house from scratch on 260 acres
Wow.
by hand, a big, huge house. And his goal was to own it free and clear. And his plan if we first moved there was to sell it. He wanted to sell it for $1 million one time I got to high school and move away to Payson, Arizona. And he did sell it for a lot of money when I was about 21. But I'm second and third, fourth grade. He literally built it by hand, and I would unload the truck full of sand every day with a shovel in the morning before I went to school, and then he'd use that sand to literally mix the cement to build the walls. Wow. But you learn a lot, don't you, doing that?
My dad carried a adobe brick in his briefcase every day to work to remind him of what he was working towards. He wanted to build an adobe house, and that was his other dream besides the winery.
Oh, that is phenomenal. I love that story. And so I assume, for my kids, my son Zach, he went off to college, and he says, "Dad, you're right. These kids are just getting drunk every night and throwing up, and I don't even go to the parties," because I demystified alcohol for my kids. It wasn't a big deal. That's how my parents related to me, and it made sense. It worked for my kids. I suspect that you grew up drinking wine from a young age.
I did, yes. One of my earliest memories is my brother and I, when the family was together for dinner, my brother and I would have our glass of red wine, and we would hold him up to the light and say, "Such a pretty color," and then clink our glasses together and take a sip, and then the family would start the meal.
Oh, That is beautiful. I like that. What fun. And I suspect you probably do it once in a while now.
We still do it every once in a while when we get together.
Oh, that is a lot of fun. Okay, let's talk about some of your wines. You have roughly 7 wines depending on the year. You've got a blend that sometimes is around and sometimes isn't. I've had that. That's amazing. Let's see, the sparkling. I am going to have to buy a bottle of this and take it home to my sweetheart. She loves a sparkling wine.
It's a fun one.
So talk to us about the sparkling.
The sparkling Syrah is a really easy drinking, light, bubbly red. We make a Syrah specifically for the sparkling wine, so it's not the big heavy oak bomb that our traditional Syrah is, but it's also a little bigger than the Syrah Rosé that we make. It's its own wine. We had some sparkling Shirazes from Australia years ago and really liked them. Our customers liked them, and as we've been able to increase our Syrah production, we thought that would be a fun thing to add to the lineup. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I think, was our first vintage. And it's been going strong and been well received since.
That's awesome. Okay, now you're sold out of the rosé, which breaks my heart because my sweetheart loves rosé. So tell me about your rosé. I know that we don't have any right now today, but people will be hearing this podcast, years from now.
We'll have it this summer.
Okay.
So, the rosé, we make a Syrah rosé, which in the land of Pinot Noir, it's a heavier style rosé than most of the Pinot rosés that are out there. Most rosés are made by removing the juice from the clear juice from the dark skins right away. We actually let the juice and the skins soak for a couple of days, so kind of like steeping your tea longer to make your tea stronger. We let the skins and juice soak longer to pull out a little more color and flavor, so we make a more robust style rosé.
Excellent. I like that. Okay, and then you've got two reserves. We'll talk about one of them because we're going to drink the other at the end, which I'm super excited about. I love that part. I get to eat and drink amazing stuff on my podcast. But they're both called Reversal. That's the brand for both your Syrah and the Reserve, and your Pinot Noir Reserve is Reversal. Beautiful labels. I love it.
Thank
the
you.
R is backwards. Tell me about that.
The name Reversal came about one night over wine, of course. We were just hashing out ideas and names, and there is no legal definition for the word reserve in American winemaking. And we, tongue-in-cheek thought reversal would be a good play on words with reverse reserve, and came up with that name for the reserve wines that we make. They are single vineyard, single varietal reds. Our Reversal label was designed by a very good friend of ours, Jonathan Meeks, who's a graphic designer. He's done work with a number of wineries, and he designed that label for us. The closest I get to graphic design is scrawling out ugly stuff on a yellow pad of paper with a blue pen. And I have so much appreciation for someone that can take my scrawl and make something beautiful out of it. And I love graphic design. I love taking photographs, and I wish I could do design work. And just an evocative label. He's amazing. So he helped us with the Chenin label, and then the Stumbling Block label, and the Moodlight Merlot, and the Basket Case label, which we don't have here. Sean did.
Okay, speaking of evocative labels, Moodlight Merlot.
Moodlight Merlot.
Moddlite, Moodlight. And this is an incredible wine. I've had your Merlot. It's an amazing wine. But the label and the name is an homage to your dad. Talk to us about that.
So my father was a lighting director in television in Hollywood, and he wanted to bring the ambiance of his set lighting to the home decor for cocktail parties and things like that. This is the 50s, the 2-martini lunch and all of that kind of good stuff.
And I'm still in favor of a 2-martini lunch, by the way.
Me too. So in the 50s, he invented this mood light. It's a conical shaped light that just has an on-off switch, has a light bulb inside of it with some colored gels and filters inside of it that would project this kind of trippy image onto the wall. And it predates the lava lamp. He sold a number of these units and then eventually sold the patent, and that was the seed money that he and my mom were able to use to buy land to plant their vineyard and then start a winery when I was 10 years old.
So yeah, you saved one of these really cool 2-page brochures from the Mood Light, and it says, created in 1956 by your dad and sold over 100,000 units. Just amazing. And that his creative energy led to him doing the next creative outlet where he put together the winery.
Yes.
And then you've made a wine that's
we made a wine to pay tribute.
That is phenomenal. Okay, so now we're getting down to two of my favorites. Not only they're amazing wines, but talk to me about. We'll start. I suspect we should start with the Chenin Blanc, and I love it. I've heard you tell people, "Oh, my name is Chenin Blanc Carlton."
Yes, I tell everyone that.
I love that. So talk to me about first the name of this wine and the label.
So the brand is Shai Chenin, and we were brewing beer one day. I was telling Sean the story about how the Shai Chenin came about while we were brewing beer, of course, because it takes a lot of beer to make great wine. But my father had always threatened to make a wine and name it Shai Chenin after me with my picture on the label. I was very shy as a kid, and I never wanted him to do that. I told Sean the story, and he was like, well, I've got, that's got to be the name for our Chenin Blanc whenever we get to start our winery. And it's amazing the things you'll do when it's your business and you're paying the bills.
Well, I think it's
Pimp yourself out.
I think it's a fantastic story, and I just, I suspect that it's possible that a lot of shy kids they're actually introverts. I suspect I'm an introvert. I suspect you might be a bit of an introvert.
Yep.
And I used to have some friends that kind of like, they feel bad for introverts, and I feel bad for extroverts. They're loud and boisterous. There's no depth. No, I'm just kidding. If you're an extrovert, but here's to the introverts. I bought introvertuprising.com just to be ornery. Okay, so I'm going to drink this Chenin Blanc. You tell us about what we're tasting. I love the story. I love the label. Now let's talk about the wine.
So Chenin Blanc is a very delicate white grape varietal. It's got a lot of aromatics, a lot of like fruity, florally aromatics and aromas. So in a world of oaky, buttery Chardonnays, which is the more popular style, Chardonnay is the world's most popular white grape. Back in the 60s and into the 70s, Chenin Blanc was what Chardonnay is today. Granted, we're very different wine drinkers today than we were back then. But Chenin Blanc, it was what everybody was drinking, and that's what my parents planted. Chenin Blanc has a lot of acidity. It's got like a zing that will just kind of get you on the side of your tongue. That's its acidity, whether it's a dry style like ours or a sweet style. Or anything in between, it should have that zing along with that delicate, floral, aromatic, fruity floraliness.
Yeah, my sweetheart is not in favor of anything sweet, whether it's wine or cider or dessert. She just likes more dry and her flavor profile. And this is fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm very, very impressed. I might have to buy 2 bottles before I go. Okay, and then your Reversal Pinot Noir.
The Reversal Pinot Noir.
So this is your Reserve Pinot Noir.
So reserve from the Lone Madrone Vineyard in the Dundee Hills. The Dundee Hills is for us, the epicenter of Oregon Pinot Noir. The early Pinot pioneers, they saw that the Willamette Valley was on the same parallel as the Burgundy region of France. Some of them came to the Dundee Hills and planted Pinot Noir. It was the Dundee Hills that brought us to Oregon, and this vineyard is in the same vicinity as all of that. So we feel very blessed and grateful to be working with this wonderful Lone Madrone Vineyard in the Dundee Hills at the epicenter of where it all began.
The nose on this I'm jumping ahead, but I can't help it. I'm holding a glass of it. The nose is incredible.
Thank you.
Wow.
Our motto, we try to make the biggest Pinot the vintage will allow us. And Pinot is a very fickle grape, so that will vary year to year, much more so than with the Syrah, just because of the nature of the Pinot Noir grape. But it's a beautiful grape, and we're happy with it.
Okay, and I messed up. I want to go back to the Chenin Blanc. If someone buys a bottle of this and takes it home, what are some good uses for it? What are things you'd recommend?
Besides a porch on a sunny day?
I was just thinking that I should get a bottle of this and take it home because there's a little river right where we live, and we go, hang out, and sometimes, in the summer by the river, and we have river beers, and this would be a great river beer.
Yes. It's a great cheese pairing wine. It's very often traditionally paired with just all kinds of appetizers. Out here with all the fishing we do and receive, Dungeness crab and Chenin Blanc is my absolute favorite combination.
And I'm nuts. I drink a cider and think about putting gin in it. It's just I have all these crazy combinations in my head. But Jake Burden is the executive chef at Offshore Bar and Grill, and he makes just incredible desserts. I would love to see him make a dessert that would go well with this. I think that would be fun.
I bet, yeah.
Or Kendra's River Inn, she makes cheesecakes, and I bet a Chenin Blanc cheesecake, however that would come about, whether it's made with Chenin Blanc or it's made to pair with it, I would so dig that.
Yeah, I haven't done too much with that. We have, the Grateful Bread has made cookies, chocolate chip cookies with our Syrah.
Wow.
And they were like chocolate chip Syrah cookies. They were decadent with, I think they had dried cherries, and she soaked the cherries in the Syrah.
Oh my goodness.
They were amazing.
That is ridiculous.
We might have to bring those back.
Yeah, I will come out for those. Okay, so now, sorry, I just got distracted. So back to, tell me some more of the flavors of the Pinot Noir.
The Pinot Noir, I get a lot of kind of cherry and pomegranate. I get a little smokiness from the barrel that we age them in.
Yeah, there's a lot of richness there and depth.
A lot of layers.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very impressive. I love to, I love pairing wine or beer with food. And then in my head, I have cocktails by themselves. And this is like, sometimes at night it's nice just to have a whiskey, on a cold, rainy night. And some evening, just before I go to bed, this seems like just perfect. I mean, I know there's a lot of other uses for it, but wow.
Not too heavy, not too light.
But full of flavor. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. He wants a whiskey or this Pinot Noir. Yeah, I think I would love that. So tell me now about food pairings in your Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir goes with a lot of great Pacific Northwest foods, such as salmon. Again, out here we get a lot of salmon from all the fishermen. We smoke it, baked, grilled, you name it. It's a great pairing with salmon. It's great with goat cheese, hazelnuts, mushroom dishes, all do very, very well with Pinot Noir. I like it with like a mild lamb. If it's gamier, I'd probably go with the Syrah. But meats. Yeah,
I just did a podcast, Steeson Family Farms. They're a hazelnut farm, 5 generations hazelnut farm, North Salem, and this would be fantastic with those. And probably some Marcona almonds. I love me some Marcona.
I love Marcona. We have some truffle oiled Marcona almonds.
That's kind of gilding the lily, isn't it?
Oh, they're so good.
But I love gilding the lily. It's, oh my goodness, wow. Yeah, these are both, I've had a lot of your wines, but boy, these are just tremendous. Thank you so much for sharing them.
Thank you.
And then as we close, tell me about the name, Twist Wine Company. Kind of a little funness there.
Yes, Twist Wine Company. It encompasses a number of Sean and Shannon traits, I guess you could say. Our original logo showed the tendrils of a grapevine, which twist around the vine. When we first met in the Napa Valley, so many years ago, we always knew we had a different idea of how we wanted to approach our tasting room. So we thought we had a different twist on the tasting room concept. Our labels are all very different. We don't make a wine under the Twist name. That's the umbrella for all the wines that we make. But, we thought it was a different twist on things.
Well, and I love it that each of your wines has their own label and their own personality.
Their own story.
And their own story, which is even more brilliant because people love the story. And I like it. And you need to get some T-shirts, Twist Wine Company, like let's get twisted. I think that would be a lot of fun.
We'll work on that.
All right. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for having us here. And I love your space. I love your wine. I encourage people to come to Pacific City, have a flight, have a couple glasses, have a couple plates, and take home a case or two of wines. That sound like a good thing?
That sounds great.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you.